cow.
There's not a hamster in there.
There's no hamster in
No
it.
hamster
Oh my gosh.
in
All right, so we are back for number 24.
Yep.
Number 24.
Number 24.
That's a baker's dozen plus 11. For you bakers out there.
For you bakers out there. He's right. That's how we counted it when I was a baker. Yep.
We just did a pretty decent review of the State of Design by Mark Rosewater over on Chatter of the Squirrels, so you should check that out if you like that kind of thing, because he does that every year, been doing it for 15 years. We, however, are going to stick with Blogatog and regurgitating that in Reblogatog.
Yep.
That's where this comes from, Mark Rosewater's Tumblr account. So we're just going to jump in and give you the highlights from the last week.
Sounds
or at least
good.
what we think are the highlights.
Well, then obviously they are.
They are. Mark, if or when a Planeswalker that has cycling or cares about cycling. If, but leaning towards when, we do cycling often. Well, that'd be interesting.
A Planeswalker with cycling actually seems like...
that cares about cycling, not with cycling.
Or a Planeswalker that has cycling.
Who's going to cycle away a Planeswalker?
Early
original T-Ball you could.
Right.
But since then, usually...
Yeah, that's fair, but I'm thinking you can make something really powerful with the high mana casting cost and slap cycling on there so, you don't feel it's not a dead card early. Cycle that away and get your value late.
Maybe something that has Planeswalker cycling. We just talked last week about not doing the type cycling. But
right.
How about some Planeswalker cycling? I'm going to cycle this and go get a Planeswalker. Ooh, that sounds good.
That sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, probably a little strong. Oh, hey, Mark. I hope this finds you well. Friends and I were recently wondering about the partner mechanic. Since we already got a Planeswalker partnering with another, in Rowan and Will Kenrith.
Right.
And, of course, legendary creatures being partnered among each other, might we ever see a Planeswalker and a non-Planeswalker partnered? Like iconic characters, Ajani and Jazal, maybe in a commander or a core set. Angrath and his daughters, or Teferi and his daughter, as some examples. Thanks and cheers.
Partner has all kinds of problems and stuff, but that's kind of a cool idea, actually. A Planeswalker and a non-plane.
Maro says, it could happen, I guess. So, I don't know if that just really hit him to where he hadn't thought about it, because that's an odd answer. It could happen, I guess.
I want to see Angrath and his daughters. That would just make me happy. See the happiest dad in the multiverse with his daughters. Come on.
I want to say that answer really is the thing that intrigues me most about this. It could happen, I guess. Usually he would say something like maybe or if, when kind of stuff. Yeah. But it could happen, I guess. Almost makes me think maybe it's already in the works.
Oh.
Ooh. Maybe I'm making a leap of faith there. I don't know. Thank you for returning to the solo podcast. I love your in-depth dives into the nuances of Magic. The interviews, while fun, aren't as heavy. Thank you, Mark. Now, I don't listen to Drive to Work very often.
Right.
But he's been doing a bunch since he's working from home. He's just been doing interviews.
Right.
And he says a big goal with the interviews was to expose you all to things that you might not normally be exposed to. There's a lot more to Magic than Magic design. That said, I do enjoy talking about Magic design.
Yeah.
So he did. He had a lot of people. He had artists. He just had a bunch of people.
Artists, some pros. He had Richard Garfield one week.
Sheldon Menery, since we're really into Commander.
Right.
So lots of things like that. Here's a couple I kind of tied together. Mark, can I request more land that can generate a lot of mana, but only for a specific type? Example, Mishra's Workshop. That way lies danger.
Yes.
And then a little bit after that, somebody said, hey, Mark, obviously, lands that can produce more than one mana when you tap them, like Tolarian Academy and Mishra's Workshop, are dangerous to design.
Uh-huh.
But in Theros, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, was created. Was Nykthos considered dangerous during design, or was the fact that you needed to invest 2 mana to even activate it enough of a limiting factor? Or was it thought that it being devotion and not something easier to get out cheaply, like artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, limited enough? We knew we were playing in a dangerous space, so the card got a lot of playtesting attention. Devotion is a little harder to abuse than things like number of artifacts, especially when ones that cost 0 exist in the environment.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still got tons of play.
Oh, yeah.
And it caused the banning of the ley line in Pioneer. So that way lies danger. When you can get a land that produces more than 1 mana and the payment isn't excessive, you should always play it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. How did Queen Marchesa miss the noble errata, even though she's an assassin that killed Brago and became queen? Is there something I'm missing? Sit back, boys and girls, for a lesson. She's not a noble. She didn't become queen by birth. She did it by murder. You're not a noble if you kill to take the throne. Right. Only if you're born into it. That's what a noble is.
Nobility. Just because she is royalty does not mean she was nobility.
Come for the magic. Learn about England. Do you understand the fascination that Americans have with the royals? Am I the only person that doesn't get it?
Ooh, more celebrities. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what this. I don't know. I just don't know. One of them, it was a big hoofrah. He stepped down or didn't want to be a part of it. I don't even know what his name is, but I heard it, a few months ago or whatever. Good for him. Go live your life, buddy. He married an American gal, I think.
Oh, was it Harry?
Harry.
Was it Prince Harry?
Could be Harry. It's the younger.
The younger brother.
He's way away from the throne, so right. He's got to do a lot of Queen Marchesa. No, he'd actually still be a noble. He'd have to do some mean stuff to get there. And poor Charlie or whatever, he's been waiting for forever to be king.
Yeah.
And
if they want to keep that royalty over there going, they're gonna have to skip
Queen
him.
Beth, she's been doing it for 80 years or something.
They're gonna have to skip. They're gonna need to skip right over him and get on to, the kids. With
See,
the baby
I already know way more about this than I really want to.
Yeah.
And they did it. The Queen made some kind of proclamation. Women can ascend now, right? Didn't she do that a year or two ago?
I think so. Yeah.
Because she's got granddaughters, or does she have granddaughters?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's not just the male lineage.
Yeah.
Well,
we do that obviously because she became queen.
Right, but I mean, if the firstborn is a woman,
it's her.
It's her, not the firstborn son.
Man.
Yes. See, I know too much about this. Moving on. Hey, Mark, I was hoping you could pass on the feedback to the appropriate individuals that the new Amonkhet stage on Arena causes nausea in some people. I was really looking forward to playing Amonkhet Remastered, but unable to do so as I feel too sick just looking at the screen. And he's going to pass it along. Have you played any?
I have not, and I do not know what they're talking about, but I will look because I'm intrigued now. I don't know if it's
I'm guessing it's flashing or something, some kind of... I don't do digital, as I've said before, right. But he does a little bit, so
yeah,
I was going to check him. Is the problem with Stone Rain that it costs is too aggressive or splashable? And would a Stone Rain variant that costs triple red mana be acceptable in Standard? The issue is not wanting it cast on turn 3.
Yeah.
Limiting it to mono red decks doesn't address that issue.
No.
Yeah, turn 3 land destruction has been shown to be very prohibitive.
Yeah.
Much like, being able to counter somebody's spell on turn 1.
Right.
That's why counterspell at 2 mana is too cheap.
Yep.
Because if you go first, then you can just counter the first thing they do. Yeah.
And then you have just tempoed yourself to the head of the game really quickly.
I got one on Maro this week.
Huh?
Do you think we could ever get a mono black take an extra turn card? It's not in black's part of the color pie. That said, maybe a strong bend if the additional non-mana cost is appropriate. There already exists a card called Temporal Extortion, and your opponents get the ability to pay half their life to counter it.
Yep.
If they don't, you get an extra turn. It's like 4 black or something.
Yep.
So there's already a black extra turn spell.
I forgot about
He doesn't mention that, but it does exist.
I miss the days when Black got crazy stuff like that, where they just throw on the rider of, and if your opponent wants you not to do this, they pay X.
Pay some life.
Pay some life.
So the Swords of cards just got reprints. So I'm sure everyone is wondering if you still intend to complete the new cycle of Swords.
Well, of course.
He says we'll finish it, but we're in no rush.
Right.
So don't expect it to be coming out like next week or anything like that.
Well, I mean, in the first cycle of Swords, it took them a while to complete that cycle. And I mean, by the time we get all 10, it'll have been a minute. The first Swords came out in the first Mirrodin, right?
Yeah.
So,
from your article, It's About Time, there's this quote about discard cards. The reason for discarded sorcery speed is that we don't like for players to deny other players a chance to play their cards. By making all discard work at sorcery speed, we ensure that players always have a window to play their card after they draw it, outside of Thoughtseize.
right.
I might be biased because I hate counterspells so much, but shouldn't counterspells, by the same logic, be the exception instead of the rule? In other words, not as prevalent. He says counterspells have different weaknesses.
Yeah,
They are reactive and require the mana being available at the exact time of use.
Yes.
Even with that weakness, we are also careful about how aggressive we are with mana cost.
Discard spells are proactive, not reactive.
So approximately
That is a lot of
So approximately 1/3 of our program today is going to be about Eldrazi.
Okay, I was ready to say that's all these questions are all the same color now.
or maybe the lack of Eldrazi.
Oh, you want to hit this one right here before you start on all that? There's one in the middle of that.
I'm hitting this one before I do all that.
I just realized there's one not on pink.
Seeing as it's the enemy of blue, the king of draw, can mono red get Underworld Dream style effects? Red could punish draws with direct damage. Yes. He didn't say yes, but red could punish draws with direct damage.
Does Underworld Dream say loss of life? Is that why he specifically said direct damage?
Could be.
I don't remember the wording.
So, no Eldrazi and Zendikar Rising. We've talked about this before, just getting started where we're all on home base. Nope. That said, the impact they had on the world can be seen in elements of the set. Now, I'm just going to say right here, I have a colorless commander deck, and I am 2.5 cards short of not having any artifacts in it. Cryptolith Fragments is artifact flips to colorless.
Gotcha.
2.5 cards.
2.5, okay.
Since we got the Trilobites and the Egg and the Farfinder and stuff, yeah. So I want there to be some colorless cards in this of some kind. So there better be some colorless. I want to get that, and I want to get rid of Gruesome Slaughter because that card sucks in my deck. It is so situational; it's not even worth having in there. Anyway, and there's other stuff, but I understand that you overshot with Eldrazi in Battle for Zendikar, and you feel like you made lots of design mistakes by focusing so much on the war. But I'm wondering if you're doing the exact opposite mistake by completely ignoring the Eldrazi in the new set. Would it subtract from the awesomeness of the set to put a couple Eldrazi stragglers in there to please the fans?
I know the answer to this one.
By the cosmology we created for the Eldrazi, they're literally can't be stragglers. The Eldrazi are extensions of the 3 Titans, and the Titans are all gone. The set does pay homage to how the world was changed by the Eldrazi having been there. I think we're going to get some colorless stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think wastes are coming back. We're going to get some colorless stuff. To continue. The flavor text of multiple cards, some of which were cited in the comments of the original ask, clearly indicate that Eldrazi stragglers do exist. Vestige of Emrakul and the UMA printing of Ulamog's Crusher provide decently indisputable evidence of this. As someone who very much disliked the way Eldrazi were handled in Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, and Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon, I am glad to hear the focus is away from them, but excluding them entirely seems like a clear mistake. They are part of the world's identity now. In spite of what characters of the world might think, Eldrazi spawns are extensions of the Titans. If they are dead or locked away in a moon, that's Emrakul, there can't be any. I believe both flavor text comes at a time where people falsely thought they were dead. There literally can't be stragglers. What was vestige of Emrakul then? Emrakul wasn't dead or trapped in a moon yet. The Eldrazi can apparently touch multiple planes at the same time. Neat. Do you feel that Eldrazi on Innistrad was more or less popular than the Eldrazi on Zendikar? I always preferred the Eldrazi on Innistrad, as the whole Lovecraftian aspect felt like a natural fit for the gothic aesthetic of the plane. I cannot talk.
Words are hard.
The Eldrazi in small doses seems to create the best audience response. I believe that is true.
I would, yeah. But I'd have to say that Innistrad would probably make more sense than Zendikar. I mean, just you've already got the horror theme. And
right, Emrakul's there trapped in the moon. So.
Yeah.
But like Ulamog's Crusher clearly establishes stragglers can and do exist, and all but a small amount, like people would have wanted. Much like cells can live shortly after you're brain dead, there might be a tiny window, but the window is long gone. Get it out of your heads. No.
Everybody griped about Eldrazi for so long, and now when they're not bringing them back, everybody's like, but where are the Eldrazi?
You can't please everybody. We are a fickle group, us Magic players. Fickle, fickle, fickle. One last thing, and I love this. Maybe a different approach would help. Do you think we've seen the last of the Eldrazi? Once upon a time, Elspeth was trapped somewhere.
Oh.
And a little smiley face because Emrakul is trapped somewhere. So I think that's an allusion to the fact that when we go back to Innistrad, we get more Eldrazi.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think that's cut and dry. That's just what he's. That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Plain words.
When we go back to Innistrad, we'll have Eldrazi.
There you go.
We're just interpreting for you.
Thank you, Maro.
All right. Last page. I told you that was like a third of it right there.
It's all Eldrazi.
We were just plowing through Eldrazi stuff.
All Eldrazi all the time.
All right. Now that you can guarantee paired cards appear in the same booster, can you make a unique auxiliary card for each DFC instead of having a generic checklist card?
That would be cool, but...
A few things. Not every printer can do that yet, so there are size limitations to sets that do that.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. All the printers can't do the thing.
Yeah.
So they can't print as much as they want. They have to kind of limit the size to get it. 2, there's a cost associated with it, so that has to be budgeted into the set. 3, there is a person power issue. You're making a lot more cards that have to be laid out. So that has to be budgeted for as well.
Right.
What this all means is it's possible, but that possibility has to account for numerous factors, making it unlikely for now.
Yep. It would be kind of cool, though.
It would. Condensing all the things in 3 sets down to 1 set means not everything fits. He said that in the previous thing.
Yeah.
Do returns need to reference the original set so much? Why can't they be all new stuff in the same vein as the original?
Because that won't make people happy.
Because that won't make people... Well, he says a little different.
Right.
Because many players want things from the original set. Because many players have... for example, take Theros Beyond Death. The most common complaints I got were, why didn't you include this thing I liked about the original?
Yep.
Where were the other gods?
We only had 1 set.
Yeah.
They only released... And we got 6 gods in 1 set. First time on Theros, it was only 5 in each set.
Yeah. When will we hear about the sets after Zendikar Rising? It feels pretty late to not even know their names and settings yet. Well, it's not.
Yep. It feels like it, but...
You found out about this year's sets last September. so late is incorrect. I'm hoping they're doing the same thing.
I really am. He asked.
And if he says September, I'm thinking we get it probably at the end of September, after the set's released and everything, or maybe the 1st of October or something.
Yeah.
Because the end of October is Commander Legends, so you don't want to interfere with that.
Maybe they do it right when they start previews. Isn't that how they did it last year?
I don't recall. I have to go look it up.
Yeah.
And I did not do that. All right, we got like 4 left. Will Magic sets ever go back to the 3 sets on one plane like in the past? I personally enjoyed how a story on one plane could be expanded upon throughout multiple sets.
I really did too.
Let's call it highly unlikely. The current model is doing much better than the 3 set model. Other than the thing we talked about in set design.
Right.
Where it's hard to get the mechanics to mesh.
Yeah, there's nowhere near as much cohesiveness in a standard right now, it seems like.
And he says again, only 4 left. Reading your State of Design article, I really like the idea of Companion, and I'm worried its impact might mean castable from the sideboard may not appear again for a while. If it did, do you think it would be the new Companion, or would you rethink the mechanic altogether? Magic is a hungry monster, but once burned, twice shy. I do think we'll explore similar space one day. Maybe not soon, though.
Next question makes me sad because I thought that would be a win.
If win, Battlebond 2. He thinks it's an if, but a bigger if.
I'm blown away by that. I really thought we would definitely be getting a Battlebond 2.
There are a lot of people who didn't like the artwork for Battlebond.
That was one of my only problems. It was very...
And the lack of a setting. It was just an arena. It wasn't its own plane. It was
well, it is its own plane. I don't remember the name of it. The whole...
There was no fleshiness.
It
was just I don't know that the plane has a name. It was just...
It does. I've seen people reference it, but
yeah.
It's a whole gladiatorial plane. That's what it's all about. But I thought it did really well, and the art was one of the only issues I had. It was a lot more digitized art than we'd been having before that, or since that. It seems like that set had a lot more...
Right, they tried something different.
No, they did, and it didn't pan out, but I still think, I don't know, I just liked it. I thought it was a cool concept.
So I missed the question where we talked about this, but this is in response. To be fair, Godzilla wasn't the only reason players expected Ikoria to be some kind of lair for behemoths. I meant to mention the subtitle and forgot. That's in the State of Design article is where that comes from. One day, maybe they'll let me name the sets. Yeah, Lair for Behemoths really did make you think, oh, there's going to be 10-10s, 12-12s.
Yeah,
There's going to be
big monsters. And no, not big monsters.
No, we're going to build some big things.
Yeah.
But no, they're not big. And our final one for today, guys. What are the chances of going to a plane with the same theme as a previously visited plane?
Ooh.
As an example, an Egypt-based plane that is not Amonkhet, or a Gothic horror plane that is not Innistrad. I get a little tired of returning to X sometimes, but like the themes. Thanks. A world would have to be pretty unpopular for us to not return to it and instead start over with source material.
Kamigawa.
It's hard enough building one world from a single inspired source. Yeah, Kamigawa, I think we probably don't ever get a return to Kamigawa, but we might get another Oriental,
right,
Japanese-inspired
The other
set.
closest thing, I think, is, and there are some big differences, but Eldraine was probably the closest we're getting to going back to Lorwyn.
It's a fairy tale.
It's fairy tales. It's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And we know
instead of Celtic.
And we know that Lorwyn had its issues, that they don't want to go back there.
Right.
So,
I don't know. I mean, when I find a world that I like visiting it more.
Yeah.
I mean, ask the Star Wars people if they want more Star Wars content.
Yeah.
Ask the Marvel people if they want more Marvel movies.
Yeah, we did.
Ask Harry Potter fans if they would go nutso if she wrote an 8th book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't got a problem with making
No.
returns. I just don't want them super often.
No.
So
Well, I mean, I think having a return, at least one return every year, that's fine. There's enough places to return to now. That
we're
going
to get about half of them, so 1 or 2 every year because we got a core set.
Right, we got a core set.
So some years it's going to be. Some years it might be all 3, and some years we might not have any.
Right.
On average, it's going to be half the time. That's what's been stated in the past. Anyway, guys, that's what we have for you. Hope you enjoyed it. That concludes this week's episode of Reblogatog.
Thanks, guys.
And that's the way it is.